Hi, welcome, Shilpa. It's
Thank you.
yeah, it's great to see you. So I'll do a brief introduction just so the people watching know sort of a little bit about you, who you are.
Okay.
So you're making such a massive contribution to the homeopathic community. You wanted to just do this interview and next interview. So you are an educator, obviously a homeopathic practitioner, mentor as well, and software designer. That's
Yes.
quite a lot. Originally from Mumbai in India, that's where you graduated, moved to Sydney around 2004, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. You founded the TQFS Academy, and you have an amazing global community connected to that. I think 30 odd practitioners now, professionals working on that team, which is
Yes.
amazing. You created the stages template, and you
Hmm.
authored the HomeQuest software and the Argentum mentioned program, which I've been on, which is amazing and has changed the way I work. So I wanted to kind of spread the word of that. It's absolutely amazing work you're doing.
Thank you, Simon.
Again, welcome. Thanks for jumping on the call.
It's a pleasure.
We've got quite a bit to get through, so we'll just jump straight in.
Okay.
Yeah, the first thing, you've done, as I say, you've done so much for the homeopathic community worldwide, and I really wanted to ask you what your why is, because it really inspires me to hear why people do things. So why do you do what you do, and what does it mean to you?
Wow. So, it's very interesting. My why has changed over time.
Hmm.
If I remember, I go back to my childhood, my big why had been about, learning and exploring and sharing. That sort of curiosity, that thread has always been in my entire life. But I think it found its real focus when I went to medical school.
Hmm.
So, sort of this whole amazing thing about, jumping into this health and well-being zone, but also because it was a homeopathic medical school, this intricate dance between psychology and pathology. So, if I have to ask, say what my why was then, I would say it was about solving these complex cases where conventional medicine had no answers. And that was my why. And then moving on, I think my life took a turn when I met my husband when I was 23. And what really connected us was this, both of us were in different fields, but it was all about a passion for creating. So we fused my medical homeopathic knowledge and his technological expertise, and together we built the first prototype for HomeoQuest. So if you ask my why then, it was like about solving problems of my practitioners where the traditional repertorization was not enough. Yeah, so that was how it, and then we moved to Australia. And to be really honest, at that time we were in struggle survival gear, right? So the why was building a family, getting somewhere stabilized financially, and my clinic, software business, that was my why. But I'll tell you, I think we went on this camping trip at somewhere around 2012, and it was into the Australian outback. That was like our first real Australian holiday, and we went into this wild and wonderful place called White Cliff. And it was sort of driving along this rugged, endless, infinite stretch of, just red, sunburned space. And, we saw board, the nearest petrol station was like 1,000 kilometers away. And we we actually camped at night, and we were looking into this nothingness. And that was the time it forced us, those 5 or 6 days of just being in that wilderness, to step back and, ask ourselves what we really wanted. So I think we realized our vision was much bigger than just, starting a family, building a software, really having a clinic. So I think that was when we first started to think about our life's purpose, and that aha came. I came home and I enrolled into this coaching program, right? And it was that first day, you see how people come in, they introduce themselves, and mics are passed, and I'm naturally an introvert, right? And I frankly hate the sort of thing where you are introducing each other and trying to say something about who you are.
Yeah.
And when it was my turn, somewhere a voice came from deep inside me, and I said, I'm Shilpa, and I work with practitioners who will transform the way the world will look at health and well being for time to come. And I said that, and it was so liberating, and because it was so true at that time. And just, my focus had shifted from just clinic and patients to empowering this global community of practitioners, reaching them wherever they are, providing them the knowledge, the tools, and building their confidence, their mindset, their inner game. And that's when we started the TQFS Academy. So, people are doing one-off webinars, but I just thought we need something very, very foundational, and they can go through a program, go and connect with people, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. That was the mission was at that time. So I think my why changed over time. And if I'm looking at today, I just, a few core beliefs, I would say. One is that integrative homeopathy is the key. I know we have this, so many different types of homeopathy and one versus the other. And I think organ level homeopathy is brilliant for pathologies, and classical homeopathy is incredible for psychosomatic, but it's sort of, this is where together real wellness would be. And my second real core belief, I would say today, would be tapping into the power of technology. I know, in 2012 when we started the online academy, it was technology that helped pioneer the
Yeah.
academy to connect and share. And today, I would say it's evolved. It's not just about sharing information. It's about how you process the complexity of our intense homeopathic case work. So this belief drives my next evolution into the HomeoQuest AI. So
Mhm.
I think that's what, day and night, that's what on my mind. The goal is to create like a true personal assistant for homeopaths, which cuts through our complexity, cuts through, every sort of overwhelm, and just gives us the freedom to be, to connect,
Yeah.
to empathize, and to trust our intuition. And I think that's my why today. So,
Yeah.
who knows?
Amazing. Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, you. Yeah, we'll come back to a couple of the things you just touched on there a bit later on. So that's really exciting. And so, how has over that sort of journey you've had, how has your understanding of healing changed then?
Well, I was 18 when I entered medical school,
Hmm.
and I was fortunate to be introduced to the concept of holism in that first year. I'll never forget that lecture of organon we had, in the first week, I think it was, where the lecturer spent that whole hour, brainstorming with us why Hahnemann used the phrase restoring health and not simply treating disease. So something that was in balance that's gone out of sync, out
Hmm.
of alignment. And, we were like these 18-year-olds who simply sort of that idea set my foundation of healing. Just that we are here to release those blocks and restore back homeostasis. And that's so fundamental. And that has remained my anchor, that core principle of healing. And obviously, my understanding has, profoundly changed with experience. But what has happened is working with, thousands of patients over the years today from different places, different walks of life, from rural India to, urban places in the Western world. My concept, I've failed miserably. I've achieved palliation. I've witnessed suppression and also thankfully had, some genuine cures. And going through that entire process has now given me a much more clearer and a realistic sense of what real restoration looks like. So it was theory, and now I think it's practice, and that's how healing has changed for me. It's true healing goes beyond the absence of diagnosis, but it's a transformation that moves our focus outwards. We stop just being concentrated on our pain and our families, and we look at the impact we can, spread across the well-being of humanity or well-being of the planet. So I think healing is that it expands our view and it expands who we are.
Yeah.
It evolves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in like my experience, when you dedicate your life to something bigger, serving other people, it connects you, doesn't it? And it takes it out of your, small little world. And
True. And it just
yeah,
gives you that bird's eye view, which you never
yeah,
had before.
yeah, it's massively growthful, massively expanding. Um, so you mentioned the organon briefly just then. Well, the only I want to touch on was that in aphorism 3 of the organon, Hanuman says that a physician must clearly realize, like make real in his mind or in her mind, what needs to be cured in disease. So, how do you discern now what truly needs to be cured in a case, especially if there's no diagnostic factors or there's no real causative factor available?
Well, when I was decoding the word disease, dis-ease, not at ease.
Mm,
So for me, even without a diagnosis, our patients intuitively know their unease, right?
mm,
So, and our job is to find that in a way.
yeah.
When a patient is so overwhelmed that they can't articulate their suffering or when they do not have any clear causative factors,
Mm,
then I sometimes also find it really helpful to explore the opposite. Instead of focusing on their pain, we
mhm,
explore what gives them real joy.
mhm,
And so sometimes one of my first questions could be, what do you really want? Because everyone's focused on their disease, their pain, their suffering, and this simple question can give them the permission to look, beyond their pain, and what truly needs to be cured is often revealed in that process. I'll
right.
give you an example of a man who came to see me recently, mostly because his wife wanted him to be in the homeopathic consult,
Yeah.
right? And she was worried. And he had the job he's always wanted. He's recently changed his job, but she said he's not himself after that. And he has fluctuating blood pressure and vision problems, and there is no diagnosis.
Mm,
So during the consultation, he was completely shut down. I mean, this was a new thing for him, homeopathy, and every question was, I don't know, it's fine, maybe, and no. He was clearly just there to appease his wife, and we have those patients, right?
yeah.
And it felt really stuck. So I shifted away from the problem and asked him, what do you really love doing? What really gives you excitement?
Mm,
And suddenly, sort of, the energy in the room changed, and he admitted, it's my new job. It pays me more than I've ever had, but it's dull. I'm bored to death. It's like I need exciting work.
mm,
I need to be solving problems. And my past job paid me less, but I was excited. And that was it. The unease was not a physical symptom, it was just a profound lack of vitality. And from that one opening, the case unfolded his dreams, his passion, his interest. And the remedy we found was not for the blood pressure, it was for this lost excitement.
uh-huh.
And it gave us the permission to bring that vitality back in his life and ease the pressure,
Yeah.
both mentally and physically. So,
Mm,
this is, I think, the true cure and the goal we as homeopaths are so privileged, to have. It's when a patient can accept pain and pleasure as a part of their lives and they're no longer stuck.
yeah.
So, hope that answers the question of that's where we are looking at, hopefully, taking our patients there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Shilpa. That's great. So, so you've talked extensively about the stages template. If you had to really distill it down to its essence, what would you say it is, and why is it so important in practice?
That's a very, it's like boiling down such a lot of thing into
Yeah.
one. But I'll tell you, the stages template was born out of a clinical shock. I was trained as a GP in Mumbai, India, and I always saw, patients in urban settings with psychosomatic issues and, going to the complex psychodynamic aspects, which today I call stage three, right?
Yeah.
And then I married Atul and we moved into a really small place and it was a village clinic. And the patients really presented with raw pathology where survival was at stake and, the sort of deep constitutional psychology approach I knew just did not fit.
Hmm.
So I had to really go back and look at the old masters like, like Burnett and Boger,
Yeah.
who worked at organ level. And that's when it dawned on me. I was seeing patients at stage one,
Hmm.
not stage three. So the essence, if I have to now say, is it's this framework. The stages template is a framework for matching the homeopathic process to the patient's stage of disease expression in a way.
Yeah.
So, we see disease progressing into stage one, which is deep pathology,
Hmm.
and healing is the journey, I would say, towards stage four, which is the energetic disturbance, what Hahnemann says, the disturbance in the vital force where disease before it manifests. And why it's so helpful for me in my practice and also my students have found is because it meets our patients where they are.
Hmm.
You use diagnostic homeopathy for a
Yeah.
stage one case, and you use the classical for a stage three case, and you use energetic approaches for somebody at stage four. And that makes homeopathy resonate with our patient's journey. That keeps them committed, that keeps them coming back as well. And it also unifies our profession as a way, right? It removes the prejudice of fighting within ourselves about the one right way. All approaches are valid for the right patient at the right time. It just helps us see the whole elephant, right? Not just one part we are holding on to.
That's a great analogy. Yeah. I think I love the way you say it could connect the whole profession. I think it's wonderful. It's very elegant in that respect. And it's really helped me in my practice to it's given me one big toolkit to use rather than looking, everywhere for picking up little bits. It's just given me one like a holistic way to work in itself.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is wonderful. So earlier you talked about sort of difficult cases. And we've all encountered those difficult so-called one-sided cases with a multitude of
Yeah.
symptoms, especially the mental and emotional sort of level. So how would you apply the stages templates in these kind of situations?
Well, so these one-sided difficult cases, as you call, are the tip of the iceberg of that whole disease. This is what is a classic stage one presentation,
Mm.
right? What we are often seeing is just the result of years of suppression and psychologically and physiologically. And this whole disease picture is obscured, submerged in a way, and we are left with just one or two vague persistent symptoms. And it's like a lone cry for help. Those are one or two things that all we have. And the patient's like literally drowning, in their own suffering in a way. So we must use stage one tools here. There's just no other way. We lean heavily on just this fragmented, obscure picture, and whatever the patient can provide, whatever scan diagnostic information he has or nothing.
Mm.
And that's when we use these approaches like Burnett's organ remedies. Just work on the organ or
Mm.
just work on Hahnemann had miasmatic prescriptions, this sort of issue, and you use sulfur. And these are aspects, and you use mercury. So you just help use whatever you have, clear those blocks, and as this lifts, the iceberg will be more and more exposed, right? So the suppressions will lift, the symptoms will reemerge, which was submerged in the past. It's a positive sign, and it's moving towards stage two, stage three. We
Mm.
get bigger and fuller picture, and then our familiar approaches will now start to really come in and become more effective, the classical approaches, because now the case is at stage three and four.
Mm. Okay.
So I would say that's the way you do. Work with what you have, don't dig. That's what repels our patient when we try to, because they don't know what they don't know in a way.
Mm. So how do you know when to dig and when not to dig?
So in the first 5 or 10 minutes, you start to realize where you are. When you see those defenses come up, our patients have put in all the different types of defenses, and because it's too much, they've pushed their pains, they've denied themselves, they've denied their sufferings, and then when you see those blocks, and you just respect that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what survived, helped them survive. So you just wait for them,
Mm.
work on the blocks, work on dissolving those, and then they feel they are ready for it, the
Mhm.
pain will come up.
Yeah, sure. Okay. That's certainly been my experience, I have to say. Yeah. And it
Yes,
keeps it very gentle for them as well,
absolutely
particularly if there's mental, emotional issues sort of going on that are quite deep. So,
true.
yeah. So Shilpa, you're an amazing clinician. How would you say that homeopaths can become better clinicians, like regardless of whether they've actually had any medical training or not? What's the key there?
Well, that's a very interesting question because you say about having medical training. I do not think, you know, the practice I work with, the way I work with my patients is what I learned in my medical school.
Mm,
In fact, there's a lot of unlearning that had to
right.
happen because I
Yeah,
went to medical school.
sure.
So I would say our patients are our biggest teachers.
Mm,
I believe, our professional development is like a cycle. You take a case, you have a patient, you stumble, you might even fail, and then that's the point you just go back to the master who has worked with such cases. You study their cases, who faced similar problems like you do, you learn the approach, and you experiment. And you bring that new wisdom back into your practice, and that's how you keep on learning. And I would say that doesn't deny that homeopaths should have a solid foundation of medical knowledge because even if you're not formally trained, because you cannot recognize what is strange unless you know what's common. So for that aspect, you need to know that, but we are fortunate today. I mean, information is at our fingertips, and looking forward, I would say the AI will be our greatest ally because it will help us fill these knowledge gaps on demand, but free us to become who we are as homeopaths, right? Where we our skills and our strength and our intuition lies. So I think we have no excuses.
yeah, right. Yeah, that's a great perspective. So, so different sort of that's the kind of clinical questions I wanted to ask you about. Um, you've spoken quite a lot in your teaching about awareness and how awareness is often the start of healing, anything really. So, why is cultivating self-awareness important for practitioners, and how do you develop it in yourself and inspire it in your patients?
Well, I don't know when I started thinking about awareness, but I
Mm,
would say maybe one of the first times I really started, when I read the term unprejudiced observer in
mm,
the organon, and I would have been again 18, but
mhm.
that sort of phrase, it sparked a lifelong quest into my own inner world.
Yeah.
So somehow awareness for me would be reducing the volume of my inner noise so I can be truly present for my client and also for myself, right? It's sort of a muscle I have to work on and I have to develop. I've developed it over time,
Yeah.
and I would say that's awareness, so I can be a complete blank canvas for my client to express, um, if I'm in that state. And I would say, how did I start developing it? I would say my real foundational practice has been always journaling. So I
Okay.
love to write.
Yeah.
And I've always maintained a diary since I would say 16, 17. I have like pages and pages of notes
Okay.
and little books.
Yeah.
And I'm a writer. I'm where I just put my thoughts and just 5 or 6 lines of my thoughts and my anxieties and my emotions onto a page empties my mind,
Right.
and allows my own inner self to surface. So I do that first thing I get up in the morning, and I would write something on my diary pages, and that sets me
Mhm.
for the day.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really helped me. And the other thing, sometimes, I would ponder, I look back on my pages and I would see the way of my inner map of the world. I look at when I was 16, then I would look at when I was 26. And it's amazing to see
Yeah.
how you have really been over time and the patterns and the coping mechanisms
Mhm.
and without the pressure to fix something. It's just observing And I think I find a lot of value in doing that.
Mm.
And also observing other people, other people's journeys. I read a lot of biographies. I don't know why, real people's stories
Yeah.
of how they have explored and how they have navigated their inner worlds.
Hmm.
You know, I have this book on my bedside for, forever. It's the Marcus Aurelius Meditations.
Yeah.
It's my all-time favorite book. I could just open a page and read one or two of whatever he has written, and that would set me for the day. And
Uh-huh.
I love reading how other people have coped with things and, come through life.
Yeah.
So that's been my process of awareness.
Mm.
It's ongoing.
Yeah. And how do you think that has grown with your like specifically with your homeopathic practice and being with patients and how would you how does that process kind of inspire patients to become more self-aware so they can hopefully let go of more of their issues and stuff, whatever they want to call it.
You know what? I always get my patients and encourage them to keep a dream diary.
Okay.
So, it has been really helpful because becoming aware of our subconscious is
Mhm.
one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. And sometimes people say, I don't remember any dreams, and initially they will not be able to write anything. But again, it's a habit. And once they start writing, they produce pages of dreams through
Mhm.
time. And they would I asked them to send me a logbook before my call, so I have collections of 16, 17 pages of information that they've put in, and just that is so therapeutic. They
Mhm.
remember dreams they never thought they could, and it just opens up a profound layer of understanding the subconscious, and that is such a huge healing catalyst for the homeopathic journey.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, amazing. As you know, I'm very passionate about meditation. I teach meditation, and I love that that's a real cornerstone of my life and kind of the foundation, really.
Wonderful.
And I think awareness is really key to bring that. And one of my first patients I ever had said to me that the consultation was absolutely amazing. And I said, well, why? He said, well, you actually listened to me. She'd never actually been listened to before, or she felt she hadn't. So to have someone's attention for like an hour and a half was really
Absolutely.
amazing for her, just by the simple act of just being present with someone and listening to them. And as you say, going back to the first question about your asking somebody's want, a powerful question I ask is people is, what's your highest desire? What's your heart's desire? And it's amazing to get people clear on that because it's kind of like setting your GPS for life, and things become simpler then because you can either things are taking you closer towards that or further away from it.
Absolutely.
And I find that with homeopathy as well. When people get, because I use that question a lot, like, since I've done the Agenda Mention program, of asking me what they want. And usually it's a basic thing about, oh, I want to be free of the pain or whatever. But as you keep going and they keep coming back for more consultations, it really changes. And it's amazing to see that evolution. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so you can't really separate healing from physical healing, I mean, from conscious healing and evolution of the whole person, which is what I love about homeopathy. It's amazing.
It's amazing. And, this is the greatest gift. I would say, I always tell my students as well, with or without the medicine, just being there and helping, asking those questions and just being a mirror to them is the greatest gift we homeopaths give them. And never underestimate, even if you do not find the remedy. So that's
Yeah,
what I think self-awareness is.
yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Philippa. So that next question really is around a bit more sort of open-ended, really. Is there anything you feel like at the moment that's particularly important for homeopathic medicine, kind of in light of today's the global medical, social, cultural kind of landscape? Does anything jump out at you?
What homeopathy needs right now, I would just say we, as a community, we need integration because we are so polarized at times. We, I don't know where it comes from. Probably because we operate in this rebel mode, a legacy from Hahnemann's time, and he was rightly pushing against dangerous orthodox practices.
Mm.
But today, I think the world needs to move beyond us versus them. And I think it's that time that we can integrate the best of both worlds, the conventional and the homeopathic.
Yeah.
And that also applies to technology. We
Mm.
should not be fearing technology and embrace it, like tools like AI as well. We should, we're tapping into the enormous potential to handle our complexities, and we can amplify our homeopathic gifts of empathy and intuition and connection. So I just feel that's what our profession needs, to be really open and embracing the future in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. And one of my meditation teachers says that if you're against anything, you're part of the problem because you create conflict. You know,
Yes.
it's so true. So I think, if you can see the best in both worlds and work together, that I think it's absolutely the way forward. So, and I think it's very exciting with AI coming on board now, and you're working with that. So, it'll be very exciting to see the update, the
I'm
software.
very excited about the future, yes,
Yeah,
of homeopathy and where we would go with this.
yeah, because there's so much information with homeopathy. It's such a big subject.
Absolutely.
I feel like I need all the help I can get personally. So, yeah, absolutely. So if there's from where you are now, Shilpa, is there kind of one thing you wish you would known when you first began practicing homeopathy?
If what I would have known. So I think it's a very big question, and it's hard to put one thing, but I can share three interconnected realizations I've had. That those are very fundamental. First, I would have wished that I had truly understood that, I would fail, not once, not twice, but hundreds of times, and that it is perfectly okay. It's not the end of the world. And even if when it feels like it is, that's okay too.
Hmm.
So that would be my first thing I wish I would have known when I was just starting homeopathy.
Uh-huh.
The second is connected to this fear of failure. I wish I had known that this work is a partnership with your patients.
Hmm.
You're not alone figuring it out for them. They are going to help you,
Hmm.
and you both will transform in that process. And just knowing that would have allowed me to be so much more present
Hmm.
for my patients and enjoy the journey from the start, rather than being really stressed about a specific outcome I have to give them every time they walk in or they call me.
Yeah.
And finally, I would have wished I would have known that my journey would look nothing like the way I had visualized 25 years ago.
Right.
It will change, it will evolve in ways you cannot predict. And the key is to trust that process, not fight it,
Hmm.
because whatever emerges at the end of that process is different, but it's still wonderful and it will be exactly right for you at that time. So if somebody would have told me that, I would have been much more at peace and
Right.
not be,
Yeah,
through this
absolutely.
journey. Mm.
No, that's wonderful advice. And I think for me, I tend to see it as an adventure now, and as you say, not to get, and I think the word innocence is very important for me, just to be innocent about the
Hmm.
whole thing, you know, and it
Yes.
goes back to that kind of clean slate you were talking about before, approaching patients with a completely clean slate, not bringing any judgments, being the unprejudiced observer. And that's one of our practices as homeopaths, isn't it? To be that unprejudiced observer, not just in
True.
our homeopathic work, but in our whole lives, really.
Yeah.
So I think that's wonderful advice, and I think that's wonderful. So, is there anything else? Any other tips or gems that jump up for you to share with us now?
Well, it's just about sometimes as homeopaths, we underestimate our value
Mm.
and our worth. And I just feel, just that is one thing. If we can really, protect our confidence, our self-worth, and stand up to who we are,
Mm.
rather than constantly defending ourselves or constantly trying to prove something to someone, to the world, to the GP,
Yeah.
to, every other being. And I think that's what I would say if beginners can just do that and protect their confidence,
Hmm.
I would say that's the greatest gift you can give yourselves as a practitioner when you start off and, you know, uh,
Yeah.
move towards your whatever gifts you want to give to the profession. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Gold. Thanks so much, Shilpa. It's wonderful.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you for your questions. And it just got me to think so much about things I've never thought about. And
Right.
thank you for your wonderful questions too.
Yeah, great.
It was a
Awesome. Wonderful.
privilege to just connect.
Me too. Yeah, wonderful to connect with you. So, if anyone out there wants to know more about your work, the Argenta Mention program, the Stages template, anything that you're doing, how can they find out?
Well, the best place for them is to, join my free homeopathic network. It's the central hub where I share my weekly insights, my blogs, and all the, free books or trainings and all my other goodies. So
Yeah.
I create for the community. So
Hmm.
registration is quite easy. You can just visit www.homeoquest.com, which is
Yeah.
HOMEOQUEST,
Yeah.
and you can download a free version of the software, or you can get my free book and get started and join in. I look forward to connecting with practitioners who join us.
Fantastic. Well, it is a veritable gold mine, I have to say. So, I would definitely encourage people to do that. It's amazing work you're doing. So, thanks again, Shilpa. It's wonderful to connect with you.
Thank you, Simon.
Yes.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Bye now.
Bye for now.